What is up, you guys? So today I'm going to talk to you guys about some MIDI effects in Ableton. So, you know, I don't think a lot of people really use these. I assume that most people think the same thing of MIDI effects, not being something that would alter the sound in a big drastic way. I agree sometimes. I often don't use MIDI effects, but I want to show you guys how to kind of use the Arpeggiator as a writing tool, because that's kind of how I started this song. I was just messing around with some FM8 layers and things like that, and I just really wasn't in the mood to make a cool pattern, and using the Arpeggiator I got something that started me on that path to, kind of coming up with something kind of cool. So I'm just going to start a new MIDI clip somewhere where I have an Arpeggiator already. So let's go down here. So again, you can find the Arpeggiator under MIDI effects, where you have Arpeggiator chord, MIDI effect rack, which is kind of like some glitch machines and things like that. I don't really use those. You have note length. Don't use that either. Pitch, that comes in handy sometimes. Like let's say you're in you're using the simpler or sampler inside of Ableton. You can throw the pitch before that and just use that to kind of not transpose the actual sample, but transpose the MIDI note that's being played. And then there's random, which again don't use often. Scale, I don't use that either. When it comes to chords and progressions and melodies and all that, I have my own workflow, so I don't really depend on scale. But if you don't know your major and minor chords, use it. Use this until you learn that. But you should know that on a basic level. And then velocity, which I do use as well. Maybe I'll talk about that in another video. So anyway, Arpeggiators. So I'm just gonna make a note here. So let's find G2. Let's make this grid tiny. So Command 2 to make the grid smaller, and Command 1 would also make the grid bigger. So if we look down here, it's getting big. It's getting smaller. Command 2 makes the grid bigger. I had the other way around. And of course, Command 3 gives you triplet grid. So that is super useful. 1/8 triplet grid, 1/16 triplet grid, and 1/32 triplet grid are amazing for all like big room type stuff. I'm not too big on big room, but if you're doing that kind of stuff and you're not using triplet grids, you're just insane. So let's make something cool out of this plain note. So let's turn off the Arpeggiator real quick. Sounds very boring, so let's turn on the Arpeggiator and make something cool. So first thing I would probably do, and again, this is kind of how I started, the drop and all this stuff in this song. I just started with one MIDI clip like this, and I just gave myself a long note, and then I probably went to sync on, so I could sync the rate of this, only specific to this clip, because I do like having the rate off. Or not sync. So right here it's free, so that means this is kind of set to, I could just set this to whatever, but when it's on synced it only snaps to the grid like rates. So let's turn that on and let's go to gate real quick. So let's kind of mess around with the gate. So let's bring it almost all the way down. And what the gate is doing is it's just exactly what any gate in the world does. It opens and closes, and if it's, the more you close it, the more you get less sound, and the more you open it, the more the whole note starts to come through. So obviously 200% is all the way open, 14% is almost all the way closed. And now what I'm going to do is grab let's see, I'm on synced rate, so I need to go to synced rate. And of course you could just click on the parameter right here and it'll just show you the automation lane for that. So if I click on gate here, it's going to show me gate. If I click on rate, it'll show me rate. So in Ableton, it's super easy to see your automation right away. So what I'm going to do now is I'm probably just going to do something like this. Make sure this is off. And I'm just going to come up with something quickly. And let's just draw in some madness for fun. Okay, so let's make this a little bit bigger so we can kind of see the rates here. And let's turn off the pencil tool, so Command B or Control B if you're in PC. And let's kind of click off some of these extra points so we can make this look more like saw waves or like saws. And then we're going to add in some curves to this to kind of make it feel more organic. So let's just click some of this off. You can also just select a range of clips of envelope, and you can go delete envelope, so then it snaps all that. So I can just go here, delete envelope, so that's Command delete, by the way, and I can just do that sort of stuff. So let's see, leave that point. So let's throw in some curves. So holding down Option or Alt if you're on PC, you can make these curvy. That's so we're gonna do that. All right. And if we select the whole clip, we can bring the entire thing up and down. So let's grab all this and bring that stuff down. So you can select just how much of this you want to select, control at a time. Alright, and we're going to delete this stuff, so Command delete, just like that. And let's do something like this. Just want to get this to sound a little bit cooler. So, I could just start over real quick and just delete the envelope. And now we're back on 1/8, so let's go maybe a few lines down. Let's do something like that. So it kind of reminds me of step sequencers a bit, but with a combination of like an LFO. So let's see, that's where arpeggiators are anyway, so let's kind of just alright, so I think I know what I could do here. Something cool like this. Maybe the other, not so low, or not so fast, I should say. And let's take these down. And again, I can just, copy the envelope and then select another region and just paste that in. So let's paste. So just paste, and you can see I copied that envelope. Or you could also go to duplicate. I think there's a duplicate envelope. Yeah, so if I could have just done it that way, just duplicate that. So let's see, let's kind of compare now. It's not the coolest sounding thing. If you take your time, you can have something really awesome, like a really cool riff. But for sake of tutorial, I'm just going to wrap it up. So let's A-B this. So this is what we had at the beginning. And that's what I had when I was stuck and didn't have ideas. And then I used the Arpeggiator and came up with something cool. So, I mean, that's not what I ended up using, but you get the idea. If you get something really cool inside of that, using those arpeggiators, then you can start building and getting influenced again. So it's kind of a nice writing tool to use these MIDI effects. So again, if you don't know your major and minor scales, use the scale tool so you can start writing some progressions. If you don't, or you could use the chord, the arpeggiator, things like that. So I really feel like MIDI effects are writing tools in the way that I use them. But, you know, they're obviously so much more than that. So hopefully you guys like this, and lights.